Hi everyone, it's Jen from Mind's Eye, and today is just one of those days where you just can't even make it up. And it really came out on, the things that I had heard and what I had studied about World War II, where it was, where you wake up and it's just right there in your face. Like I went to go use one program that I switched over and I'm like, I gotta go back over to this until I can get this rectified. And then all of a sudden it becomes the butt of the joke. And I hate to be derogatory, but it's true. So when I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh my gosh, like they probably heard me, my mic was on laughing. And I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. It's just how it's gonna pan out. So basically, I know today is February 6th, 2025, and we are starting early, and it's just going to be how it always starts. And first is about World War II and how it all goes out. Now, what I see as a psychic, as a medium, it started like so simple, but it started with slew, and slew is like an all-in-all crime. It's contained in one area per se, but it literally permeates out because you just don't know what they set into everyone and everything. So when you look at it and when it happens, you have to like check your house, you have to check your teeth. The kids go haywire, they go nasty, they will go criminal. Uh, Wars and rifts start. I mean, it's so like road to perdition, to mob like, to mob run, to everything where when you're in 2025, you have to use everything, every resource available in accordance of the law that you can, everything. So when I'm looking at World War II, it really started with impedance, some sort of impedance, to a tinkering, to a cantankering, to a conjuring, to everything that you could hear about a war, that you just couldn't even do it. So when I actually look at it, and I actually have to say, nothing is true and nothing is none of a done, that you just can't even see it. So when I actually look at everything, and you have to say, how did this happen whatsoever? You just can't even be it whatsoever. None at all. None at all. So when I actually see this, and I actually do it to the highest degree of none, all the cards fall out. And that's when I really see the movies like Schindler's List. And I don't know why this is coming in. I feel like it was a precedent, 1917. And then I see Saving Private Ryan. And then I see how it all played out. That the King of Spades comes in, and it comes in as a spear. And this is where our great grandparents and our uh, everything comes through, like our family members. Even all of a sudden, you're like, I swear, my relative who is deceased, passed on, however we say it, is coming through my household and moving things to the highest degree of none. So when I actually look at it, and I actually can't even do that, you can't even like sue anything, to the point where you're like touching yourself like superstition to get it done. So here are the other cards that fell out. Excuse me for one moment, because it literally just all fell on the floor. So as my grandmother said, if she dropped silverware, somebody was coming. If a broom fell, it's gonna come through. And then if you spill salt, you gotta throw it over your shoulder. So that's where all those things come in. The Jack of Diamonds with the King of Spades means it really was a cutout when it comes to World War II. When I see this, Seven of Hearts, it really was contented, whatever had started. Nobody said no to it. And when I see the Seven of Spades, you have to say, all is a boast of like a loast of a toast. of a may, of a day, of a say, of a lay. And then you go, here it is, here it is. You're not supposed to say that and you're not supposed to do that. So when you look at it and you go, that's where the Ten of Hearts comes in, and everyone was on the same page because it completed. It completed. And we just don't understand why. But really, when you see this and you see the Six of Diamonds, you go, you can't even believe how hard it is to get the job done. To get the job done. All of it comes through, and you have to say, yeah, it was true. Everything and anything and something and nothing, that you can't even do all of it. This Two of Spades, it's going to come in with the King of Spades and walk in, like if you're a visual person, a visionary, you sit there and you go, yeah, they're going to walk in and they're going to literally just say, no, just sit, don't worry about it, and we're going to bring it to you. And we say, who would actually do something like that in World War II? Who would do something like that? You just can't do slew. You just can't do slew. And I'm hearing these like conversations, and I swear to God, it's a mediumship, and it's just clairvoyance and clairaudience. It's such a hard intuitive hearing that you say, I don't even think you should talk about it. So when you actually go and you actually do everything to the highest degree of resolve, you can't even believe it, how their voices would actually turn. They're like, you got it. Like, you can actually do covers. You can actually do a lot of things. But most of the time, it's true. And I have to say, I definitely am seeing some, as a psychic, some injuries and old life wounds popping up just based on behavior. But then they settle down because they know how to handle themselves. And these are the things that would actually pop up, and people would look at each other during this era and they would say, what is actually coming through? I just don't understand how it would go through. But really, it is this 10 of clubs. There it was. There it was. All of a sudden, you go, you can't even believe it, how it would just do. And how it would just do. Just going in and like containing it. But you can't even see it. Here you are, just doing it. So when you actually look through, and they had always like a perseverance of shutting it down to the highest degree of resolve. So when you look at it to the highest degree of resolve, so you have to put away the poker cards. Really, the poker cards are the most of the connecting to this type of time frame of this era. It was so strange on the colors, on the numbers, on the game, on the play out, to where when you are sitting and you are playing the game, you can't even do it hard enough. So how do we need to know this about today? How do we need to see it about today, where we can't even do it hard enough? It really is about a game that you can't do it. You're not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to see it, and you're not allowed to do anything. So when I see this, the 10 of clubs to the 6 of clubs to the 2 of clubs, if I would say slew hit so bad, even to this day, that you actually can't even get contentment. You can't get containment, and you can't run amok. You can't do a due in. You can't do due process. You can't do anything. And that really started, they're showing me a little bit in 1912, definitely in 1917, but it was really apparent in 1934, where you couldn't do it. You just had to sit there and take it. And it would go, are you drinking again? Are you doing this?
No, I just went out maybe for a milkshake or an ice cream or a candy bar. And here you are. You are at what they would call precinct. It's a four of diamonds, and you did something that was criminal, and we have to actually contain you and sit here and you go, you can't even believe what was a criminal. Absolutely a criminal. The Queen of Diamonds says, no, no, you can't cut out, you can't even put it on the table because they caught it so well, because on the basis of reform, you must be incarcerated. So when you look at it and you press charges and you say the Ace of Hearts goes, no, the group of us says only one may approach. I feel that's really unsafe in this day. But when you actually dictate it out and it actually happens, you have to say that it was. So when I'm looking at how it is, and I don't know why it jumped at, and just backing off as a psychic medium, I'm not even going to talk about how justice per se was served on the end result, going right through Germany and the concentration camps, the death penalties, on how it came through. They have to say it was almost very similar to the Salem witch trials, that it just went to court and it just was done. But really, what was heinous to most people, it was that Germany, after their museum Reichslag had burnt down, that it became an actual legal lawful decree that upon a look they could actually just bring you in and question you any which way and form. And that's why it was considered heinous. This Nine of Hearts meant that was the contentment order at that time and moment. And that is when we all know people get creative and start doing things. This Five of Diamonds actually is true, where you can't even sue anything, but you sit there and you lay it on the table to the highest degree of resolve. So when I'm talking about this, it's so similar and parallel to today, where you can't even be it whatsoever. This Five of Spades comes in and says, no, you must do done. You must do done. You got to actually line it up. It's kind of in the black, it's not in the red. But when you look at it and you see the trees, you have to see that nothing is none. Nothing is none, NUN. So when I see this again, the King of Clubs, I have to say, who is hanging out with who? Where is this owl sitting? Where is everything playing out? And I have to say, that is how well sometimes the universe, the true universe, trolls you. Like I had said in another video, is that these moons in January, we're going to come together and it's going to feel like a Mercury retrograde, a true Mercury retrograde of the planet Mercury coming through, even though it was Saturn and Jupiter. And when it collided, and if you're scientific and mathematical at the precise timing, it was going to be a 314, and then it would be a 319, but it was 325 on a come in at a PM to get a DUN to a DUNE, but really you can't. It's an old word they're showing me. It means you can't even go to like precinct, you can't even go to county, you can't even go to city, town, you can't do resource, and state is questionable. So back then it would be constable, it would be sheriff. They couldn't, you couldn't, you'd have to have them in the area at all times because you had to go quickly and then boil it up. So that is where this Three of Spades comes in, where you can't even sit, like you sit and you have to watch the community all day long, all day long. So is that real expectations in society of 2025. I mean, we have community watches already. That's already into play because it continued out. But when I'm looking at it, how it is, and that's what I really want to show, is this parallel universe. It is, the views of the ego. Right now, it's opposite, but and it has to do with presidential terms. So let's actually talk about the dictatorships. Let's actually talk about the alliance and the presidencies and everything that came in through. One was called Realm, one was called Regal, one was called Cadam, and one was called Continuum to a contentant. And when you went contentant, it really was like gold for them because they were the final say. They were the final say. It boiled up, down, up, down, up, down, and nobody could get an agreement until something like that, like you're clapping your hands to get their attention where you couldn't even see it. So as I boil it back, because I'm showing them that it's going to be a little bit too intense for most people right now, that you can't be it whatsoever. So when I look at it and I actually see it, I have to go, it all is none at all to be a doll. So when I'm looking at it and I say a doll, it's kind of superstitious, boiling it back. So I'm seeing snow. I am seeing it like they're giving me a feeling of how it would be. So here I am. Yep, I'm trying to make ends meet, just like everyone else in America. I see the snow. Everything is okay. But when I go outside, I just get this feeling that it's just not right. And I just can't put my finger on it. And I can't even believe how hard it was to get it done. So when I'm actually looking at it as a psychic, I have to say I would do my best to get as much housework done. And I don't know why I have this feeling like get as much done. I would worry about things tomorrow outside, like snow, like shoveling the best that you can for cleanup. And then I would look and I'd have to say, make sure the dogs are okay. Like, why do I have to be methodical? That is how bad it was in World War II. It went down to almost neurotic to obsessive compulsive disorder to a type of schizophrenia to bipolar, multiple personality disorder to everything that it was a cover. But I have to say, like, was it true? Was it not? Because I'm looking at someone who is an LPN, how their anatomy and physiology and how their health is during labs and all of it is kind of odd. There's nothing upon and nothing within them. So you have to say what is true and what is not. So as I look at it, let's actually look at the runes. So they would have used more wood runes. Psychics were really uncommon. It was more instinct that they felt it. It really was at night, NITE, and they would do their own way of conjuring. So if they went to a speakeasy, it was done. And in today's, it would be the club at night. And when you look at it, it flowed. They were able to get it out. Able to get it out. There was something when you see this, it's a gift. It really is good. And people would feel really well being there at night because they could get it out, but you can't even get it done whatsoever. So when I see this and I say it's highly defensive, that you have to say, most people today would say, you know what, we need to move on. We need to get a divorce. There needs to be a separation. I emancipate myself. And what is true? I bet you any money, there's this inkling and people are saying, you just need to do it. You actually just need to do it. So when I actually look at it, and you actually have to say it's true and that it's time, that it is so counterintuitive and they would sit there like that. That you got to do. You just got to do it because it's nasty. It's absolutely nasty. When I actually look at it and I actually see it on how nasty a manipulation can be on living, you have to say, was this the right decision? Because here I am alone. And that's how a lot of people were. A lot of people were. Now, when I see this, definitely trolling. I definitely still see it today in the current day and time. I see it today as it all plays through. I see it well that you couldn't even be a boo, that you couldn't even see a Sue, that you couldn't even be a Lou. So that is an old term that I still use in many of my videos, that you can't even be it whatsoever. You can't even be it. When I actually look and I say, torching to the highest run, that you can't even believe that a cigarette could actually burn someone still to this day with a drink of a coffee and be done for the day, because you probably have 30 days worth of being fine. You can't even believe what it can do. It can do. These guys were so good in World War II on containing and maintaining and doing a burn on a criminal, on doing everything in their daily life and incorporating it where nobody knew what was going on, that you couldn't even see it coming. So let's actually look at another deck. What else do we need to know? Here we go. Here we go. Now, all you need to know is that everything came in to the point of grace, to the point of line where you couldn't do a due process. So it meant at the time of an officer or someone in the military or a community meeting, they would all line up and they would check each other and make sure everything was okay, that you already had 15 to 34 instances that you had to correct before it got out of hand. So when I saw this, it really had to do with nasty, everything that this card embodies with the King of Swords. It is contracts, it is steps, it is tears, it is everything that we know of today. And it really had to do with law enforcement and military and legal and judicial. It really was a form of trickery that a lot of things had, that made a huge passionate beginning. And when I'm seeing this, and especially how it comes out, they're showing me already how like astrological it was, that you couldn't even leave it, that you couldn't even see it, you couldn't even be it whatsoever, that you couldn't even at large it. No teamwork. There was no teamwork. It was solo. So it was easy. But in reality, energy catches and it's all within everyone, and it can make people sick. So as I take that pause, I'm actually listening because of current events. So when I'm looking at it, unrest, absolutely, absolutely. So as I'm seeing it play out and I'm seeing how it was, I could definitely see that, a wanting for a jumping of a gun of a martial law, because they already knew. But then you have all the policies, procedures, and protocols, and then you have everything. So you sit and you wait and you go, that is where the family is happy. So when I'm looking at it, Underground Patriots, was there anything like that where there's people like a shadow government or anything like that who works in the dark to get things done? To a degree, they're showing me it to a 1 to a 2 that could do pretty good at a cutaway. there really was no like path known. It really wasn't like the best of action on looking ahead at times. It really was going in blind when I see this with the Two of Swords. That I said it was so counterintuitive where you couldn't get anything like a done, which was like an Irish mob, where you could sit and have a cigarette and do a curse out, that it really was no skilled work because the Six of Wands would come in and they'd have no victory. And victory was such a contentment that it was a type of dictatorship. So when I say, yeah, there's no looking into it, that I actually have to do all of it, there is nothing coming through on all. Partnerships to marriages to making sure that everyone was on the same page, that health, welfare, and safety, and they would go, done. No, not real, not real, not real. Hidden motives already. It like ill thought to nasty magic to the Knight of Cups saying this is such an offer on the table that you have to say it. You just have to say it. That is where the money flow would come in. And that is where they still look at it on a frunk type of way, even in 2025, to end a cycle of something where they can't complete it. There's reasons. So when you have to say, is this toxic masculinity? Is this dishonor? Is this someone who is a father figure? As I'm looking at The Godfather, as I'm looking at The Sopranos or anything like that, was this nastiness? No, it ends up being like where the buck starts here. And that's where all the lore and all the superstitions all start coming out to the four-leaf clover of St. Francis, saying logic came in and really cut it out to where there's such leadership on doing it in their own way that it does alleviate the difficulty that you have to say the Page of Pentacles came through, and they'd say, how did you get that out over a cup of coffee out of that person? I just did it. I just literally did it. That was how good they were at down to a millisecond at times. So when I said those guys were a great generation, great for them meant large numbers of none, that they would be celibate, that they would sit alone by themselves and they would get it done because it worked for some reason. You just couldn't even do. So with that being said, that's all that really has to come out on this deep dive. Any questions or concerns, go ahead and leave a like, a comment, a share, an email, and we'll talk to you soon. And have a great day, everyone.